This bill is a shameful return to some of the most offensive legislation this House has passed. When we look back and we think of the Māori Prisoners Act in 1880, suspending trial rights for Māori at Parihaka, the New Zealand Settlements Act 1863, confiscating land after Tainui Wars, the Tūhanga Suppression Act of 1907, banning traditional practices, and the Native Schools Act of 1867, banning the use of te reo. We look back now, we think, how could Parliament have been so wrong, so fundamentally at odds with the promises made in the treaty, so racist? Yet here we are. Christopher Luxon, you are presiding over the most racist piece of legislation in 100 years.
You could use the word is, but not you. Just I take a liberal approach generally, but getting a little bit tired of the number of accusations firing my way at the moment. So you could word that a different way. No loss of time here.
I'll continue. This bill is a bill that's so obnoxious that 40 King's Council have spoken out against it. They point out that this coalition government's treaty principles bill seeks to redefine in law the meaning of the treaty by replacing existing treaty principles with new treaty principles which are said to reflect the three articles of the treaty. The problem is they don't. By imposing a contested definition of the three articles, the bill seeks to rewrite the treaty itself. But the treaty has endured, despite everything, a hastily drafted document that has versions in Māori and English that don't agree with each other. A treaty which this House has repeatedly ignored. A treaty that the courts once called a nullity, but its spirit has endured. Māori have never given up. They have been tenacious across generations. In the treaty, there is an underlying agreement and an intention between the Crown and Māori to work in partnership, to recognise their respective spheres of authority and to protect, promote and preserve those things which are Māori. This bill seeks to do away with this by rewriting how the treaty works, by creating a new and deeply objectionable principles which deny the authority of Māori. What then is the promise of Te Rangatiratanga in the treaty? In the words of those 42 distinguished lawyers, this new principle erases the Crown's Article 2 guarantee to Māori of Te Rangatiratanga. It seeks to undermine the chieftainship and self-determination and their political authority. This is a damaging piece of legislation. This government, Christopher Luxon, is taking a wrecking ball to the work that has been done by successive governments over the past 50 years since the Waitangi Tribunal was established. This bill would amount to the dictatorship of the majority. This Parliament can and has passed racist laws in the past, and Māori are still paying the price, and we all are still paying the price. So we've come a long way since those laws were passed, or so we thought. We've recognised that this House does not have an unfettered mandate to violate the rights of others. But this bill demonstrates that some people still think that because Parliament is sovereign, because the power exists, there's a mandate to expropriate, rewrite and revisit. They think their power is unfettered, unbridled and unconstrained. But it's not. As those 42 King's Council said, even if Parliament can legislate like this, it should not, because it's not for the government of the day to retrospectively and unilaterally reinterpret constitutional treaties. That would offend the basic principles which underpin New Zealand's representative democracy. There are big constitutional questions that deserve debate, and the treaty is one of them. A contentious one, but it should be given a debate which is careful and conducted in good faith. This government has approached this debate in a way that's disrespectful at best and hateful at worst. Will a later Parliament look back at the conduct of Christopher Luxon presiding over this bill and put it alongside those parliaments which drove a wedge in our society, caused generations of harm? I think so. And now we go to a futile select committee process, one where they've said they're not going to vote for it, we're not going to vote for it. It's wasteful, it's divisive. That government should be ashamed.
Vote against it.